A moment too close. My life took an unexpected turn. I'm Paula, a single mother who's been raising my son, Jeremy, alone for a long time. He's 24 now, and we've always been close. Just the two of us, navigating life's ups and downs together. But one evening, something unexpected happened, something that left me questioning everything. Jeremy came home looking exhausted, saying he didn't feel well. He'd been working long hours and studying hard, and he seemed utterly drained. I told him he could lie down on my bed if he needed to rest. The night was cold, and our old house took forever to warm up. I tucked a blanket over him, thinking it was just a mother caring for her son. At first, it felt normal, familiar. But then, as I lay beside him to keep him company, I felt him shift closer. I assumed he was just trying to get warm, so I didn't think much of it. His arms wrapped around me, gently pulling me close, the way he used to when he was younger, seeking comfort. I was surprised but let it happen, telling myself he just needed reassurance. Lying there, I felt Jeremy's breathing slow, as if he were drifting off. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. It was strange but soothing, a moment of closeness I hadn't felt in years. I stayed still, not wanting to disturb him, convincing myself it was just a mother comforting her son. But then he moved again, inching closer under the blanket, his arm tightening slightly around me. I froze, uncertain of what I was feeling. Part of me wanted to pull away, to say something to break the moment, but another part stayed rooted, caught in a tension I couldn't ignore. Then something happened that caught me off guard. I felt something firm beneath the blanket, unexpected, unmistakable. My heart raced, and I tried to stay calm, reminding myself this was my son. Maybe he didn't even realize. I lay there, trying to push down the confusing feelings stirring inside me, telling myself it was just an awkward moment that would pass. But as the minutes ticked by, I realized something had shifted, and I didn't know how to handle it. Jeremy stayed close, his breathing steady, but the warmth between us grew undeniable. I wanted to move, to say something light to break the tension, but the words wouldn't come. I was trapped in the moment, unsure of what I was feeling. Then Jeremy lifted his head slightly, looking at me. His eyes held a softness I'd never seen before, a gaze that both reassured and unnerved me. He didn't speak, but his look seemed to ask if I was okay, if I felt the same unspoken pull he did. I tried to smile, hoping it would ease the strange sensation, but it only thickened the silence. His hand rested on mine, firm yet gentle, almost absent-mindedly brushing against me. It was such a small gesture, but each touch sparked something I couldn't ignore. I kept my breathing steady, trying not to let him see how fast my heart was beating. I didn't know what to do or say, so I stayed there, enveloped in this strange connection, telling myself it was just a mother comforting her son. But in that silence, just the two of us under the blanket, my mind swirled with thoughts that felt inappropriate yet impossible to shake. This was my son, but lying so close, I felt something deeper, a proximity I didn't understand. Confusion mixed with warmth, an unexpected sensation that left me frozen. Jeremy didn't seem to notice my turmoil. He stayed beside me, his hand moving gently, comfortingly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. His breathing was calm, his eyes closed again, and I wondered if he was falling asleep. But then his hand slid up my arm, and I shivered, caught between pulling away and staying still. He opened his eyes, meeting mine, his gaze carrying a question, as if he were asking if I felt the same angelic pull he did. "Jeremy," I whispered, barely able to form the word, wanting him to stop, to create distance, but I couldn't move. The tension between us was too strong, like a silent storm brewing. Neither of us spoke, but the air was heavy with unspoken words, things we couldn't voice. Almost instinctively, he moved closer. My heart pounded, my mind racing, but I couldn't bring myself to pull back. I was torn between my role as a mother and the strange feelings rising as he drew nearer. His hand rested on my shoulder, and then, gently, he brushed a strand of hair from my face. It was a simple gesture, yet it pierced my heart in a way I didn't understand. I opened my eyes and he was there, so close I could see every detail. The faint freckle on his cheek, the soft curve of his jaw, the way his gaze searched mine. There was a vulnerability in him that mirrored my own, and I could see he was as lost in this moment as I was. We stayed there, suspended in silence, as if time had stopped. My mind was a whirlwind of questions, doubts, things I couldn't grasp. I knew this was my son, the boy I'd raised, yet in that moment, he felt like someone entirely new. Just when I thought we'd remain frozen in that silence, Jeremy pulled back slightly, breaking the trance. He let out a nervous laugh, rubbing the back of his neck. "Sorry, Mom," he said, his voice laced with uncertainty. "I didn't mean to. I don't know." He avoided my gaze, a faint flush on his cheeks, as if grappling with the same confusion I felt. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him it was okay, but the words caught in my throat. For the first time in a long time, I felt uneasy in front of my own son. I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder, offering a small smile to ease the tension. "It's okay, Jeremy," I said softly, trying to sound reassuring. It's been so long since it's just been the two of us. Maybe we're both a little lost." He nodded, a flicker of relief in his eyes. Just as the tension began to ease, the doorbell rang, startling us both. I jumped up, my heart still racing, and hurried to the door, grateful for the interruption. It was our neighbor Paul, always friendly and dependable. He smiled, but his gaze lingered on me a moment longer than usual, and I realized I was still carrying the strange energy from my time with Jeremy. "Hey, Paula," he said warmly. "Just checking if you need anything. I know it's been cold lately, and I can help with the heater if you're having issues." Relief washed over me, and for a moment, I let myself relax. "Thanks," I said, smiling. "The house is a bit chilly. I'd appreciate that." Paul stepped inside, and I caught Jeremy watching us from the hallway, his face unreadable. For a split second, I saw something in his eyes. Jealousy, maybe, though he quickly masked it. It surprised me, making me wonder if there was more to his feelings than he let on. As Paul checked the heater, we exchanged small talk about the house, but I couldn't stop glancing at Jeremy, who stood silently, observing with an intensity that unsettled me. His unease added another layer of tension to the room. I wavered between wanting to smooth things over with Paul and being hyper-aware of Jeremy's presence, his gaze never leaving us. After a few minutes, Paul turned to me with a smile. "All right, Paula, just call if you need anything else." I thanked him, and as he left, the tension between Jeremy and me became even more palpable. I closed the door and turned to him, seeing his serious expression. "You okay?" I asked, trying to gauge what was on his mind. He shrugged, looking away, his voice low. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just didn't expect Paul to show up, that's all." I wanted to talk, to understand what was happening between us, but before I could say more, he brushed past me and headed to his room. Without another word, his door closed softly behind him, leaving me standing there with a mix of relief, confusion, and a lingering sense that something unresolved was simmering. I stared at his closed door, a hollowness settling in that I couldn't quite grasp. I didn't fully understand what had just happened. The moment we'd shared, the way he'd reacted when Paul arrived, the unspoken tension threatening to erupt again. I went to my room and sat on the edge of the bed, replaying every moment in my mind. I knew I couldn't ignore this forever, but I didn't know how to face it either. Then came a soft knock at my door. My heart skipped, wondering if it was Jeremy returning. "Come in," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Jeremy opened the door and stepped inside, his face still unreadable. He sat beside me, eyes fixed on his hands. We sat in silence for a moment, the air heavy with all that remained unsaid. "Mom," he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry if I made things weird earlier." He struggled to find words, his vulnerability cutting through the tension. I placed my hand on his, offering a small reassurance. "It's okay, I said. "Maybe we're both just a little lost right now. It's been so long since it's just been us, and sometimes things get confusing." He nodded, still looking down, then met my eyes, his gaze filled with emotions I couldn't fully decipher. "It's different, though," he said softly, almost as if afraid to admit it. My heart tightened, caught in the same confusion. For a moment, I considered pulling him into a hug, telling him everything would be okay, but I wasn't sure if that's what he needed, or if it would complicate things further. So I stayed there, letting the silence speak for us. Then, in a surprising gesture, he rested his head on my shoulder, the way he did when he was younger. It brought comfort, but also that strange unease I couldn't ignore. My heart softened, and I wrapped an arm around him, holding him gently in a gesture meant to reassure, even though I knew the issues between us weren't fully resolved. For the first time in a while, it felt like we didn't need all the answers right away. We could figure things out step by step, together, even if it was messy. But just as that thought settled, another knock came at the door, firmer, almost urgent. We both jumped, startled, exchanging a glance. My nerves flared as I stood and opened the door. Paul was there again, looking concerned. "Paula, sorry to bother you," he said. "Just wanted to check if everything's okay. You seemed a bit off earlier." I glanced at Jeremy, who was watching us intently, his face still unreadable. I tried to keep my voice calm. "Thanks, Paul, we're fine. Just having a quiet night." Paul looked at me, then at Jeremy, his expression thoughtful. "All right, just remember I'm next door if you need anything." After he left, I closed the door and turned to Jeremy, who was still watching with that same intensity. He stood and walked toward me slowly, my heart pounding again. The air between us was heavy with everything unspoken. But just as he reached me, he stopped, his expression shifting, as if wrestling with himself. "Maybe we shouldn't rush things, Mom," he said softly, his voice trembling. "Maybe we need time." My heart ached with the same conflicting feelings, but I nodded. "You're right, Jeremy. We both need to think this through. Take it slow." He nodded back, and we stood there, close but cautious, as if teetering on the edge of something we couldn't control. It was an ending, but also a beginning, something we couldn't fully define. As he returned to his room, I was left wondering what the future held for us. Drop a like if this story resonated with you.